Hello friends at Beachborough Schools. My name is Ed Moldenhauer and I'm the author of Spin the Globe, The Incredible Adventures of Frederick von Wigglebottom. You guys have been lucky enough to take the journey with all 6 of Frederick's books over the last couple of weeks during this unfortunate time in our history where we're stuck at home and not at school. But I want to send a special thanks to Mrs. Cowling, Miss Sanders, for helping out and getting my books over to you guys, and you guys being able to learn and experience a lot about a bunch of different cultures in the world. I'm going to talk about some of the questions that you guys posed to me, and I know it's the last couple days of school, but hopefully you'll get these and be able to enjoy and reflect. So we're going to take a little journey, so hang on tight, and I'll be right back. Hi again, everyone. I wanted to answer a couple of the questions that you guys expertly posed to me. They were pretty tough ones, but I went out and tried to answer them all as good as I could. So let's see what our first question is. A couple people posed this question, and the question was, did you always want to be a writer? Well, not so much when I was in school or in college. But when teachers make you do things, sometimes it's not as much fun. But I found over time that I really wanted to share my stories. And I enjoy writing now. I enjoy writing a lot. It kind of comes as you get a little older and a little more experience, and you can put your thoughts down into words a little better. So let's talk about that for just a second. So hang on. So when I was your age, we didn't have things like the internet or Google or Wikipedia to find out answers to things. So when I was a youngster, if I had a question, my parents had something called an encyclopedia, which was like a big book that sat on the shelf. And if you were lucky enough to have one of those, if you had a question, you could go and look it up in the book. And that's what my father and mother used to always tell me. If I had a question about a country or a place, they'd say, oh, go look it up in the book. So if I saw a TV show and they were in Africa somewhere and I wanted to learn about an animal in Africa, I'd have to go and I'd look in the encyclopedia and I'd look under Africa, and then they had sections that talked about animals and things like that. So now people don't rely that much on reading things anymore. They'll go onto the internet, type in a word search, and then they pull it up. But I like to write, and I think that reading is great because what it does is allows you to create a mental picture in your mind of what a place looks like. Okay, so for this question, I took the camera off of me. You're probably tired of looking at me. And many people said, how many books have you written? Well, this is my wall of fame in my basement that has the pictures of the 6 books that I've written. So the first book, I think is the last book that you actually read, was on Australia. Then my second book was on Norway. The third book was on Peru. Fourth book was on Belize. My 5th book was on Nepal. And then the final book was from Morocco. And down here in my basement, you also see things that I've picked up on my trips. This is a little mini didgeridoo that I bought when I was in Australia, and I'll talk about that in a second. This is a mask of a Mayan warrior that I bought when I was down in Mexico, and I'll talk about that in a second. This is the calendar, the Mayan calendar. I bought that when I was down in Mexico on a trip. This is a Maori war mask I bought, and a Maori artwork that I bought on my recent visit when I was in New Zealand. And I'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, so my next question, well, a couple questions, said, what was my inspiration for writing these books? Well, I'm going to put a picture up in just a couple minutes, excuse me. So the next question was, what was your inspiration for writing books, or these books? What was your inspiration in writing these books? Well, in a couple minutes, I'm going to show you. So the next question was, what was the inspiration for you to write these books? Well, I'll show you in just a couple seconds the original globe that sat on my child's dresser, and we used to spin the globe. So one time we lived in the desert of California. My daughter was very young, and at nighttime when the sun went down, packs of coyotes would run through our neighborhood howling, and she got scared. So she said, Daddy, can you tell me a bedtime story? So what I would do is I would go in and I would tell her bedtime stories. Over time, I ran out of every story you could tell about knights and princesses and frogs and lumberjacks and sailors and aliens and everything. So then I said, hey, why don't you guys spin the globe, and where your finger stops on the globe, I'll tell you a story. And that's how it all started. Eventually, my kids got a little older and they didn't need daddy to tell them a bedtime story anymore. And then my daughter and son said, why don't you go in and write down your ideas because we loved your stories so much. So that's where the inspiration for Spin the Globe, The Incredible Adventures of Frederick Von Wigglebottom came from. My next question was, where did the name Wigglebottom come from? Well, it's a long story, but I'll make it really short for you. My son's name is Eric, and I was going to name him, if you remember from the Norway book, which is in the background there, the characters were Nicolina, which is my daughter Nicole, and Eric, the Sammy boy, which was named after my son Eric. But originally we were going to name him Frederick. And we didn't want him to be called Freddie, not that there's anything wrong with that. My name is Edward and people call me Eddie. But we decided to name him Eric. So every time I would tell a story, I would say that the hero of the story, which is called the protagonist, his name was Frederick. And my son used to get so mad at me. He'd go, my name isn't Frederick, my name is Eric. But he couldn't sit still. So that's where Wigglebottom came from. His little Wigglebottom would never sit still for a story. So I had to tell short little stories, which are what these books are designed to, because there's little chapters. So that little chapter is just enough to kind of talk about a topic, and then it keeps him from getting all Wigglebottom. So I hope that answers your Wigglebottom question. This is my little bobblehead, Frederick. He's pretty fun. So when it comes to visiting countries, I've visited a few over my life. I've been pretty lucky, and this is as an older adult. I didn't get to travel any place when I was young, like your age. I would go on little family vacations here and there. But I have a card because I had to write them down. So like I said, I lived in Korea. I've also visited Australia and New Zealand. We went there this past Christmas holiday, and I got to dive the Great Barrier Reef, and I got to hike in the fjords of New Zealand. It was beautiful. One of my greatest probably adventures myself is I took Frederick with me, and when I was in Australia, I met we went to an Aboriginal cultural center, and I met some true Australian Aboriginals, and I presented them a copy of my book, and now I'm friends with them. And one of the individuals, he sent me a picture of his newborn baby and him reading the Australia book to his baby, which was very, very cool. I've been to Mexico. I've been to a bunch of different Caribbean islands. I've been to France. I went to Paris with my daughter. I've been in the UK. I went to London and I saw Buckingham Palace and Big Ben and all those things. We drove out to Tudor Palace and we went out to Stonehenge and Bath, and that was beautiful. I really enjoyed my time in the UK. This past summer, I went on a trip with my son through the Bavarian Alps, and we visited Austria, Germany, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein. And then one time I spent a couple weeks on a place called Cuba, which not a lot of Americans are allowed to go there because there's some political issues, but I got to spend a couple weeks down there and enjoy swimming with sea turtles and scuba diving, so it was very nice. So because the weather is so nice here in the States today, it's blue, sunny skies, it's beautiful weather, I thought I'd take a couple questions outside for you guys to change it up just a little bit. So, one of the next questions I had is, where is your next visit going to be? Ooh, well, right now it's kind of hard to travel anywhere, so I think most of my traveling is going to be done here in the States for a little while. But on my list, I'm really excited that when everything returns to normal again, I'd like to come back to Europe. I want to kind of hopscotch my way over. I'd like to hit Iceland, then I'd like to stop in Ireland, Scotland, back in the UK. I really loved it when I got to spend time in London. The people were great, the city was clean, I really enjoyed everything, the history, and like I said, the people are so nice. And then I'd really like to go over to Norway and Scandinavia. Now for Norway, I'd really like to be over there in the winter time so I could see the northern lights. But unfortunately, that's going to be hard to get to, and it's going to be cold. So I don't know whether I want to go over there when it's that cold. So the next question I had is, what is my favorite country? Well, so favorite country all over the world. Well, I'm going to say I'm from the United States and I really love the United States. There's a lot of things to see here. Someone told me that in Australia, when I went there, I only got to spend a week there, and I spent it in the very northeastern part of Australia, and you could spend an entire month visiting Australia. Same with the UK. If I flew into the UK to go from London and Dover and go over to Wales and up to Scotland and that, it would take a long time. So I don't think there's really a favorite. I love seeing all different cultures and all different places. So I'm going to put that on a list of, I'm not going to commit to a real answer to that one because I don't want to offend anybody. But maybe I'll visit Beachborough someday. Where would I like to revisit? So far in my travels, I really enjoyed my time in Europe. Like I said, France, it was a very short visit. I'd like to visit more areas in France than just Paris. The UK, I'd like to visit a bunch of places there. I really enjoyed the Alps. I would love to go to Italy and see the history in Rome. So that's, there's a lot of things there. The nice part is that most places in Europe, if you speak English, you can get by pretty well, and I learned some of the language before I travel anywhere so that I don't offend the people and at least try to make an effort that I'm trying to learn part about their culture. And which is the favorite one that I've written about? Well, the first story in Australia was my favorite because I finally put pen to paper and actually had a book. I would say my story on Norway was really cool because I got to name the characters after my children. The third book on Peru, I always wanted to learn about Peru and Machu Picchu. But I'd say of all of them, I really like the Belize book because my wife and I scuba dive. I was going to go put a scuba mask and stuff on to be goofy, but I'd have to dig it out of my storage. But my wife loves sea turtles because they're so peaceful. So the nice part about that book is that I got to name the books after, or kind of dedicate the book to her. My book in Nepal, I really enjoyed because there's so much history there and connectivity with a lot of the people in the UK. And then finally, my book on Morocco, I like because I dedicated that to my aunt who passed away. But when she was her husband was in the military, they lived in Morocco. And actually one of my cousins was born there, so I have some connectivity to it. Sometimes I even dress up for the part. In this, I'm a Viking. Even though he looks more like a Viking than I do. So, one of my questions, I thought this is pretty interesting, is how does Frederick transport around like a magic carpet? No, he doesn't. I've never given much thought to that, but at the end of every book, he sees the rainbow, and I call that kind of like a rainbow tunnel. So if you've ever seen the movie with Thor, there's a rainbow bridge that takes you over. So the rainbow kind of swirls Frederick onto his next adventure, but he doesn't travel on anything. He just kind of swirls through the air and then lands someplace. So I'll have to put more thought into that one to figure out exactly how Frederick gets around, but just say it's magic and we'll leave it at magic. What does Frederick do at nighttime? You guys are pretty keen because you figured out that Frederick's adventures take course over usually a day, right? Where does he go at nighttime? He has to sleep, right? Well, I think at nighttime is when he's traveling on his rainbow, and that's when he gets to sleep. So I don't know, he doesn't have jammies or anything to put on. He just shows up at the next place. So, and I don't know when he does his laundry. I guess his mom hollers at him. So I know in the beginning I was able to I was in my outfit, my Frederick outfit. I wear that outfit with a vest and a pith helmet when I go and I'm invited into schools or community centers or libraries to do a reading. So someone asked a question, what is in Frederick's bag? Well, I don't know. Here's Frederick's bag. Let's take a look at what he has in here. Okay, so in Frederick's bag, he has all kinds of tidbits, but the most important thing in Frederick's bag, where is it? Let's dig around. It's his trusty journal. So he carries his journal with him everywhere, and inside the journal he can put down all of his experiences and the things that he sees and does. Oh, what's this here? Oh, he has a flag of Norway that they gave, Nicolina and Eric gave him when he was visiting Norway. Oh, Here's some prayer flags that he got when he was in Nepal. That was pretty cool. And what else we have in here? Oh, he has a conch shell, like a patutu, that we use down in Peru to sing the song. I would try, maybe I will in just a second. I'll see if I can get it to blow the horn, but I'll do that in a second on a different video. What else do we have in here? Oh, here's a stuffed camel. I think he got this when he was in Australia, but then he took it back out again when he was in Morocco. And what else is in here? Oh, you found a pretty stone. Everybody, if you find a pretty stone, you pick it up and you put it in your bag. Oh, here's another stone that's all sparkly. That's a pretty cool stone. We call that fool's gold here, but it looks like real gold. So if I saw that on the ground, I'd pick it up and put it in my bag too. And what else in here? Oh, here's a turtle shell that we found when we were hiking. We didn't, this was a real turtle shell that we found out in the woods while we were hiking around. So normally he'd have other things there. Oh, the bag is empty now. But he would put things in there, maybe like a little snack, or he'd have a water bottle, or little notes, or a map if someone gave him a map of where they were at. So that's what's in Frederick's bag. Thanks for asking. So everyone, here I am back again. Yes, I have glasses. You can see them now. When you get old, you need glasses, but there's nothing wrong with that because sometimes even young people need glasses. But I want to say something. I want to thank all of you for taking an adventure with Frederick and asking those excellent questions. And I hope you have a great summer holiday. And maybe, just maybe, we'll cross paths on an adventure just like Frederick. So take care of yourselves, be safe, be healthy, and have great lives. Bye-bye.